he's been convicted, and there's a scheduled sentencing, and there's nothing in the Constitution that precludes a state from sentencing a president-elect.
Alan, we'll get to Supreme Court stuff, which is really interesting for the future, but just where we are with Trump's various legal entanglements, that 2 days ago he was very much entangled in the legal system in the United States in various ways. Is he now clear? Does the presidency clear away all sins for him? Is he free and easy now?
The president is not completely clear. He probably will be clear of all possible federal charges, the Florida case, the District of Columbia case, but there are still 2 state cases. There's been a conviction in New York for a crime that doesn't exist, a made-up crime, a crime that nobody has ever heard of. I've been teaching and practicing criminal law for 60 years. I can't even understand what he's charged with in New York. But he's been convicted, and there's a scheduled sentencing, and there's nothing in the Constitution that precludes a state from sentencing a president-elect. And then there's the Georgia case, which has probably fallen apart because the prosecutor committed perjury and deceived the court about her relationship with her boyfriend, who she appointed to prosecute the case. So I think that case is dead. But it's the New York case that poses a problem because the judge can sentence him, probably won't sentence him to prison, but can sentence him to some fine or house arrest or some kind of a sanction.
And he can't ignore that.
He can't ignore it. He can try to, as he did, try to appeal it and argue that it's part of warfare. One of the things that I'm hoping President-elect Trump will do was create an armistice and say, let's stop all of this legal warfare. I'll pardon Hunter Biden, but you have to promise not to continue to use the legal system to go after your political enemies. If both sides can agree to stop using the legal system as weapons against their political enemies, the American public would be better off.
This has been a bit of a stain on the political system in America. You know, it's supposed to be a system of checks and balances. It's supposed to have a degree of judicial independence. And yet we've seen rank politics at the heart of everything, it feels. And I mean, Trump could rise above that. He could sink down into that, of course.
He's likely to sink down into it based on his past activities and his promises. But he could do a great thing if he imposed what Lincoln did after the Civil War, with malice toward none and charity toward all. Let's move forward. That would be the best thing, but that's not Trump's style. Trump has said that he will do to his enemies what his enemies have done to him, and that will just continue to perpetuate a cycle of abuse of the legal system on both sides.
There's a conservative advantage in the Supreme Court. Do you think that will extend? I think there are 2 more judges who are likely to step down during a Trump presidency. Does that mean there's 2 more right-wingers going to the Supreme Court? And what does that mean, do you think?
Well, yes, I think there will be 2 more Trump appointees, and they'll be confirmed by the Senate because the Senate is now overwhelmingly Republican. The one thing we're seeing is the Democrats have stopped talking about court packing because they don't want to create a situation where Trump gets even more appointees. They've also stopped talking about ending the filibuster because they now need the filibuster to prevent the Senate, which is now Republican, from imposing its will on the country. So we're seeing hypocrisy on all sides, and we're seeing the judicial system being very much politicized. You know, the one thing we could learn from Great Britain is how to pick judges. I think you do a much, much better job than we do, although in recent years, even the British system has become somewhat politicized by political correctness, but we're much worse and much more partisan.
Can Trump do anything to the Constitution in his new position? There is some talk that, you know, he's not had consecutive presidencies. He might want a third. Is he allowed? Can he do anything to enable that?
Sure, he could. He could amend the Constitution. After all, the original Constitution didn't have term limits, and Franklin Delano Roosevelt served 3.5 terms. And then there was a constitutional amendment. He could try to amend the Constitution. I don't think that's feasible. Today, one of the checks and balances, in addition to the legislature and the judiciary, are the states. And in order to amend the Constitution, you have to have approval by the majority of states, and that's not likely to happen. So I don't think we're going to see the Constitution itself tampered with.
And just finally, Alan, how do you feel about a Trump presidency? You know him.
I know him. I've defended him. I did not support him politically. I'm not a Trump supporter. I am more liberal and more centrist. I think he could end up being a very good president if he puts aside his personal grievances and he decides to, again, act like Lincoln did after the Civil War. That's unlikely, but possible. And that's the great challenge that I think Trump faces. If he wants to leave a legacy, he has to put the grievances behind.
We'll see if he does that. That's cautiously optimistic, but also with grounds of skepticism as well, Alan, which is a good judicial note to end it on. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I don't know if you can hear me because they don't allow mics, but this is a political witch hunt, the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. They owe me damages for what they've done. You have a great company, you're a very innocent company, you did everything right. They have no witness against us other than Michael Cohen, who's a discredited felon. They have no witnesses against us whatsoever. They don't have one piece of paper. What we've run is a great company, that's been proven. Very highly successful company. This was a political witch hunt for election interference, but also for getting somebody elected because you wanted to get the publicity. It's a disgrace, and they should pay me damages. That's the way it should be. They should be paying me damages. This is a disgraceful situation. This is why businesses are fleeing New York, like Exxon. Millions and millions of dollars a year in taxes, and I paid millions and millions of dollars a year. We paid approximately $300 million over a fairly short period of time, and they don't want me to pay it anymore. This is a very serious problem because companies are fleeing New York. They ought to focus on the crime, violent crime in the city. One of the reasons they're fleeing. The other reason they flee is because of attorney generals like this that just want to get elected. Thank you very much. It's been a very successful trial. I don't know that we're going to get a fair ruling. But everybody knows what I just said. This is a sham, and it's a shame. Thank you.
Are you talking to the press?
Are you going to talk to the press?
Thank you. What do you got?